Hello, welcome to the Sabbath Hour telecast. This is your host, Brother Leonard Mullins, inviting you to join us in a challenging, provocative study as we conduct a prophecy seminar. To introduce you to our host, our visitors today, I'd like to begin with to my extreme right, Brother Les Bowie, who I like to call the Johnny Appleseed of the gospel. He ministers the gospel in whatever modality or way he can. And here to my right, we have a familiar face also, Mrs. Helen James. She is the Bible instructor at the LA Central City Church, and she's also participating now in coordinating the Revelation Seminar. Am I correct?
That's
that's going on at this present time.
Yes.
And then here to my extreme left, we have Mrs. Alberta Wiggins, the evangelist Alberta Wiggins, who is the evangelist at the Smyrna Seventh-day Adventist Church. She's the founder of the We Score and the College Prep Program. Am I correct?
Correct, yes.
Which is conducted there at the church every Tuesday between 6:30 and 8 o'clock.
Yes.
To those who would like to visit, I'm sure you will receive a great blessing and a lot of information, valuable information.
Free.
And it's free, no charge at all. Yes. Well, today we're going to start, and who's coordinating today? I believe.
Well, I think I'll coordinate the first lesson, and it's going to be conflict over false worship. What is the conflict over false worship? You know, in every chapter of Daniel, we've been studying about the different conflicts between the children of Israel and Nebuchadnezzar the king, and how he tries to cause them to do certain things, to bow down, to worship false idols, to eat of his meats and things, and how they took a stand because they did not want to disobey their God, and how they took a stand against all the grandeur, all the authority of this king in order that they may serve God. Now, you know, this king, Nebuchadnezzar, as we said on previous programs, he was a powerful king. He was a powerful king. But he was a wise and cunning king in that he did not try to stifle them down, but then he expected certain things from them because of the position he had put them in. But you know, you cannot let position overrule your love for God or obedience to God. Yes, Sister James?
We need to identify them that we're speaking of.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Number one, it is the Israelites who through disobedience had been forced more or less into slavery and been captured, and against their will, of course,
oh, yes.
and taken captive to a nation that did not believe in God.
Right.
God had given them a lot of opportunity to serve him, and the Israelites did not do that. So because they were disobedient, God allowed a heathen king,
yes.
which was Babylon, and Nebuchadnezzar, to capture the children of Israel.
Yes.
So the them we're speaking of here is the children of Israel, God's chosen people.
Yes.
Now, it wasn't because Israel was less or Babylon was better, but that God had some standards that he wanted Israel to set.
Yes.
I think even more, it's you're saying the children of Israel, but it only mentions three of the children of Israel: Ananias, Mishael, and Azariah, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We don't know what the other people did.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Well, let's say this.
They've concentrated on them.
Right, but we know what those three did.
Right.
I tend to think that sometimes we feel, well, they all obeyed, but I bet many of them didn't obey, and we do know that there were
Those
three
faithful,
that decided to obey, which always shows there's a minority who follows the path of obedience.
All right, was everybody called to worship, or was it the chief officers and the rulers that were called?
You mean to bow down?
To bow down, I believe it was everyone.
It was everyone. But these three men, it stood out. In fact, Daniel made a point of mentioning the fact that in his writing, and we know these writings are not just writings that men wanted to do, but holy men of God spoke as they were moved by the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit guided him to mention these three.
Yeah, I think that's significant. A lot of times we never really thought about it, but if say we have a whole nation here, and everyone is commanded to kneel, to bow the knee to this king, to the image, and the Bible only mentions three who were obedient. So we can assume that the rest weren't. We don't know. We'll leave it open to conjecture. But there were three, and they were three
men.
young men who believed in God, and who, despite the threat of death, they held fast, and the Bible shows us how God delivered them. And I think that speaks to us. That's what these are given to speak to us.
Well, one of the things that we might mention is Nebuchadnezzar, in our last lesson, had a dream. And he was mentioned as the head of gold on this image.
Oh, yeah.
And Daniel had clearly told him that he was the head of gold, and after him would come a kingdom inferior to his. But so he decided, no, he didn't want his kingdom to pass away. He wanted to indicate it would last forever. But God had told him he was the head of gold, and he said that through Daniel. So when he set up this large
Gold image.
Golden
it was gold from head to toe.
Yeah, and direct
In defiance.
rebellion
That's
against
right.
God. In other words, saying that if I can set up an image like that, then surely God's plan is not going to work, because I'm trying to usurp the authority from God and bring it into myself. He was trying to bring the worship towards himself so that he could have a worldwide religion. But we know that could not be.
Or he was having nightmares seeing these other kingdoms coming after
up.
him. And so he decided to